Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, whatever time of day you are watching. This is the Victor Roll Wrestling Podcast. I am the storyteller, Alex Braddock, and joining me as always,
I am your other host, never ready, Dylan Gilbert. Buddy, we've got ourselves a week of wrestling.
we do. It starts off hot, starts off mellow, whatever you want to describe it as. The week starts. But before we do that, I do want to say to anybody and everybody watching in the first 30 seconds of this video, if you like what you see, stay tuned to everything that we do. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Same on Spotify if you're listening on there. Make sure to do those things. But, Dylan, we got Monday Night Raw, and buddy boy, do shenanigans ensue. The first quick little thing I want to talk about, and we've talked about it a couple of weeks prior to this, is Xavier Woods and what seems to be a heel turn pushing. What do you think, my friend?
I think I'm conflicted. One half of me says let the heel turn happen because good God, the heat this feud could generate. But the other part of me has a shelf devoted to New Day figures. I've got a box of Bootios sitting right here. Like, they hold a place deep in my heart, and I don't know if I ever want to see them split. Like, I know E is out of the picture because of the neck injury, but I don't know. Part of me really thinks it'd be a great feud, and the other part of me is like, I'm not ready for this hurt. I'm not ready for this heartbreak.
Well, and I mean, we were talking last night being the WWE Bad Blood, which we will go on to talk about the shenanigans that ensued with us over that one. But you were telling me last night, it's even a solid idea that maybe we tease this turn and we finally get to the ultimate culmination, and then Big E comes out and says, hey, I can't get it back in the ring with you guys, but let me stand ringside. Let the New Day be the New Day again, and let me get these guys hyped back up again.
I mean, could you imagine the T-shirt sales, the merch, the money that could be made with having E come back, and just they're doing the 10th anniversary celebration of the New Day. Woods shoves Kofi. They're about to lock up. Big E comes running down and goes, boys, we ain't doing this. And reunites the New Day in its entirety, even if he's just a manager. Putting that on the board. And that would be a shut up and take my money pick.
Absolutely. That's genuine fantasy booking at this point. But that's not the only heel turn I want to talk about, my friend, because we had the breaking of hearts. Authors of Pain, I believe, is who they were facing. And we had the Awesome Truth and The Miz holding out that hand, R-Truth taking in that hot tag. The Miz hops in and goes to hit one of them and goes, nah, turns around, kicks Truth in the mouth and leaves. The ultimate heel turn. We all knew it was coming. The Miz cannot be a babyface to save his life.
Ron Killings is a national treasure because in the backstage interview segment after, Kathy Kelly comes up and she's talking about the Miz obviously turning on you. He goes, no, that's not what happened at all. He got confused. He thought I was still in Judgment Day, and he got scared, and he kicked me. And you see, he's trying to kind of process no, he couldn't have done that. She's like, oh, no, it looked pretty intentional. No. And you kind of see, the heartbreak setting into his face.
Yep.
We all talk about how great of a, comedic talent Truth is, but he said so much with facial expressions. Dude, Ron Killings, man. That national treasure. Protect him at all costs.
Selling doesn't matter if your face doesn't tell the story.
He said so much with his eyes.
Absolutely. National treasure. Phenomenal at what he does. He always has and always will be great at what he does. But we had two heel turns, and then we had a pretty big match go on. I'm going to call it the main event. I unfortunately did not watch live this week. Bronson Reed versus Braun Strowman in a last monster standing match or something of the like.
Which great concept for a match, have these two go last man standing, since they've fought in every city all over the place, but last monster standing was a little cheesy for my liking.
Yes, very cheesy, but it worked. We had the big ring break moment. We had the stair. We had pretty much everything involved. And the ring breaks. Bronson Reed, after they've played dead and medical has treated him, this, that, and the other, Bronson Reed goes and climbs up on the steel steps. And out of nowhere, the Monday Night Messiah, he is a revolutionary. He is, I forgot the rest of his words, but Seth mother effing Rollins, because I'm not going to catch the one per episode right now.
Not until the Netflix deal.
Not until the Netflix deal. Made his return in triumphant glory to a massive pop. Bronson Reed took him out of commission a couple of months ago.
Took him out in like one of the more violent write-offs I've seen in a while. Like they had Seth literally coughing blood, which was wild.
Yes.
But yeah, look, hopefully Seth is like cleared and ready to come back. Because just the wrestling world is better when Seth Rollins is in it. Even if he's in like kind of a weird feud, like this Bronson Reed feud could be really interesting. He does a really good job with the being like conquering the monster, whether that was knocking off Triple H or Brock Lesnar, or like he does a great job of like fighting the giants. So I'm interested to see where this goes.
Yeah, they definitely tried to boost up Bronson Reed by having him face Braun and this person, that person, trying to make him look like a beast for when Rollins does come back. We kind of wrote him off when the injury did happen because, or not the injury, when the whole tsunami and the coughing of blood, we figured maybe he was back and good for 2 matches with Priest and whoever else he was with. After special guest referee spot in the SummerSlam match, we kind of figured, okay, maybe he's not 100%. He needed to take a SummerSlam off. The next night he gets tsunami'd, and we confirmed what we thought. Just, hey, he needed a little bit more time. He needed to go spend a little more time with his baby girl and his mama baby. And we rock and roll with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I got with it is like, I hope he's back. I hope he's healthy. And I can't wait to see where this feud goes because, you know, there's a lot of talent in that ring.
It's going to be interesting. But we had 2 heel turns on Monday Night Raw, which leads us to Tuesday. Segues. Anyway, NXT. We rarely ever talk about it, but we're on the CW now, which means absolutely nothing. But it might as well have been a pay-per-view this time around, so we're going to slightly talk about it.
They've really been pushing like NXT's touring now, and like they're trying to make it a big viable third brand, which is cool.
Which is great.
To see what they do with it.
Yeah, it no longer feels like a developmental talent kind of thing. Yes. It definitely still is. Everything aside, definitely still is developmental, but it does not feel like that much anymore. With one match being Roxanne Perez versus Julia, which we hyped up to hell and back again. Delivered. I went back and watched it. It was a solid match. The only thing that I had to complain about is the interference at the very end.
Which, is becoming more and more of a problem. I love a good outside interference.
I need to go back and do like a run-in count of the week.
Yeah,
and
this
just
might
see
be
how
the
many
most
happened.
run-ins I've ever seen in a
week.
Of wrestling.
Right.
It's wild between for all Monday night all the way through the pay-per-view. It was just run-in and interference city, which is it's a great pop when you get it, but you can't just we're beating the hell out of this dead horse right now.
Especially when the goth CM Punk chick wannabe came back and interfered in the match for the 7th time in her NXT career because she keeps getting injured. Cora Jade, you're cool. But if somebody comes up to you and is like, hey, I need you to do a run-in again, just tell them no, because at this point it might as well be a jinx when it comes to injury.
I mean, look, her signature move's the run-in.
At this point. But Cora Jade comes back, tips off Julia, so Roxanne Perez can retain, whether this is for Cora and Roxanne to be doing stuff or Cora and Julia to be doing stuff. Shut up and take my money either way. Anytime Julia's involved and Stephanie Vaquer is on her way, we're going to see a massive match happen. And then the next other thing, super quick, Wesley and I'm going to call him Zach Wentz. I don't think he's Zach Wentz anymore.
Nah, he's still Zach Wentz because he's TNA right now. So
okay, so Zach Wentz had a street fight.
Yes.
Which had a gnarly bump in it. Dude missed the table and everything.
Completely missed the table. That was scary.
It was scary. And if you want to tune in to how we think about violence in wrestling, you should go listen on our YouTube channel. We have the first ever episode of the Hot Take Hangout where we're talking about violence in modern day wrestling. Moving on. Main event. Trick Williams, Ethan Page, with CM Punk as a special guest referee. Was it necessary?
I say no, but I didn't hate it. I'll
tell
you what I did hate. CM Punk is turning over this new leaf in the company, and I like as a person that I mean, look, I was one of those fans that had tears in my eyes when he came back in AEW. I'm a fan of the guy. I have not liked how he's handled the last year or two, but I am a fan of the guy. What I don't like is he was one of the first people to launch off on anybody that would put a live microphone in front of him about upstaging me and taking my moment and taking my this and taking my that and stealing my attention. So why GTS Ethan Page, while Trick is having his celebration, he's having his moment, that is your time to get the hell out of the way. Now, some people will say like it made the moment better, bigger, and if you feel that way, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, but to me, it's just, you know, the guy who spent 2 hours on Colt Cabana's podcast complaining about how, like, The Rock took his moment and you know, like, everybody else stole his Mania moment, stole this, stole that. Like, give that young talent his moment, get the hell out of the way. You've got plenty of moments that are going to be about you. You're one of the biggest names in the business. Roll out. I mean, if you want to raise the hand, cool. But like hitting the GTS and doing the whole like there's pizza on me, us, and pulls Trick Williams in. Like, I don't know, man. That's to me. It seems like it's time to get the hell out of the way.
It was a little rough, especially once again. We don't report dirt sheets and all of this other stuff. We don't really speculate about the politics behind wrestling
because so much of it is so wrong, and then we find out later.
But if the CWF's pumping in a little bit of money for Punk, I could see why they booked it that way. We'll see what ends up happening. And maybe if he's done with Drew McIntyre after this weekend, maybe he goes after Ethan Page because AEW. Oh.
You know, I think having CM Punk around this young talent, as long as like he really is, like, because he can do the mentor thing well when people want to hear it. And when they don't want to hear it, well, Cry Me a River happens, whatever. But when they do want to hear it and they are receptive, he is really good with people. And I think there's a lot of talent receptive to him. So him being in that NXT locker room is not a bad thing. Yeah. Being too much on camera can be.
Absolutely.
It could become the CM Punk show and not this brand where we're bringing up this talent. And so I hope they strike that balance well.
I agree. But we'll see what happens, as always. But going on with seeing what happens, I'm just doing crappy, cheesy segues this whole time. Wednesday Night Dynamite. Oh, brother. 5 years of Dynamite. And boy, do we have stuff to talk about and not enough time. The first thing I'm going to say is, you'll never be as good as Jay was. The second thing I'm going to say is Ricochet and Ospreay opened up the night, and boy, oh boy, I did not miss it. I thought I was going to be all over it, and it was a good match. Do not hear me wrong. This is not me ditching my Ospreay markdom.
Uh-oh.
I just, sitting there watching that match, I did not feel it as much as I did Super Juniors, man. And I know they're both heavier dudes. I know they are coming in and out of this, that, and the other.
It was, I think we went in expecting that Super Juniors match. We went expecting these guys to be flying around and everything be perfectly timed. You forget when they hit Super Juniors, they had been wrestling each other night in, night out for a while.
Well,
This is the
so
first time these guys have touched in how many years?
correct. Well, and I'll throw a horseshoe in your comment and say I wasn't, and it was almost like they were expecting the fans. The fans were expecting Best of Super Juniors, and they went in with the idea of Best of Super Juniors when they should have had a wrestling match that crowned both of their both of their styles. The fact I'm not as talented as either of these gentlemen. I'm just putting it out there first, but there was just some things that just felt off. And yeah, they haven't worked with each other in 10 years at this point or something close. But it just seeing what Ospreay can do and seeing what Ricochet is getting used to, they're definitely, if you're hyping this matchup as much as you were, it definitely needed just a little bit more time. Let Ricochet crisp up his moves. Let Ospreay build some heat between the two of those guys. And instead, now we just have heat between Tanahashi and Ospreay. Not Tanahashi.
Takeshita.
Jeez, dude.
So
it's been a long weekend. Tune in to the end of this podcast to understand why.
So I mean, my big takeaway from that match was like I think these guys are gonna put on another banger at some point in time. You can see that their styles have changed in the 8 to 10 years they haven't wrestled each other, and I think they kind of went back to try to do the things like, oh, let's do the spots we used to do. Because, to me, just as somebody who's never taken a bump a day in my life, I'm getting really drawn in, and then one spot looks off. Like, something looks off. And then they pick right back up, and it's just like, go, 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 go. Like, pace is going, and then another spot looks off. Or a move doesn't look as clean. And it takes me out a little bit because I know the level that both these guys are at. But I think they're trying to do hey, this spot we did 10 years ago without I probably haven't done this in 10 years. The biggest takeaway though was what the hell was up with that the double shoulders down?
I was just about to start complaining about
Ricochet
it, dude.
Ricochet got his arm slightly over Ospreay's arm. Ospreay's laying on Ricochet and his shoulders are down.
Clearly just blew his head off his shoulders.
Ricochet's arm does this over Ospreay's arm. Ospreay's whole body is laid over Ricochet, and that's a double pin.
Not only is it a double pin, you cannot have a definitive winner with a double pinfall. So why are you counting?
So I truly think the point of that was to do the whole see guys, they're evenly matched. But what happened, what everybody walked away was, well, that ref's an idiot. Rick Knox is an idiot.
We've known this for a while. Sorry, Rick.
How do you let Rick Knox has done a lot of he was a great ref for a long time, and I feel like he's just I don't know what the hell's happened in the last few years. He was the same one that let Moxley, very obviously concussed, take a second knee to the head to finish a match.
Oh no, brother. That was a pile driver.
That's right. No, you're right. Pile driver.
It was a pile driver that concussed him. Therefore, he didn't kick out. Knox did not count the 2 or the 3. And then Phoenix picked Mox up again, clearly dropped him on his head again. And then as he's recovering, he looks Knox dead in his eyes and goes, count the effing 3.
Very obviously.
Good times.
So, I know as a referee, you're supposed to call these things as a shoot. Which made it a little bit rich to me that the same guy who got a guy dropped on his head again because he refused to count it as a shoot, all of a sudden is going to count it as a shoot. But fine, we get the pop of no, run this back. And then they get, 3 moves into running it back when Takeshita slides in?
Yes.
Could you just had Takesh to break the matchup?
No. Never could.
What sucks, it's I love AEW. This 2 of my favorite wrestlers in the ring with another wrestler I love breaking it up, and I walked away going damn it. Yeah. There's sometimes where overbooking and run-ins and stuff can overcomplicate things that are sometimes just let the match happen. And right before the finish, when both guys are blown up, Takeshita slides in, pulls off those sweet jaw-destroying forearms, lays both men out, And that's how you set up the match that is going to bang at Wrestle Dream. Takeshita,
Yes, sir.
Ospreay, Ricochet. Dude, there's no way that match is not rock solid.
I mean, you can put it on the board if you want to. I'm putting on the board just Takeshita Ospreay.
It's already been announced.
Oh, seriously?
There's a graphic and everything. Triple
I
threat.
hate it.
Take my money.
Freaking Tony Khan. What a mark. What a freaking mark. Well, and then in the main event of AEW Dynamite, we have Kazuchika Okada versus Bryan Danielson in
The silliest stipulation I have ever seen in my life.
I don't know,
The
dude.
second they announced that the Continental title was only on the line for the first 20 minutes, I said, great, so they're going 25.
That's legitimately what happened. That as soon as they said 20 minutes, I was like, so 25? And then at the 24-minute mark is when Pac and Claudio showed up.
So, look, I think the old Stone Cold quote, sometimes you got to take chicken shit and make chicken salad. Those two took a very silly and convoluted match stipulation, and they told the hell out of that story because Danielson was fighting his ass off to get the pin inside of that 20, and Okada was doing everything in his power to like kill time, walk around ringside, slow the match down, and the second it wasn't on the line, he was going after Danielson's head. They told the story well. The story that they were given to tell was spotty at best, and they told a hell of a story. So, I mean, like, it's one of those things. Sometimes a match stip can be completely ridiculous and still make for damn good television.
Sir, two of the best in the business for a reason.
I need them to run it back one more time. Like,
It's
no
gonna
outside, no BS. Just go the full 60.
It's gonna happen.
Go
It's
the
gotta
full
happen.
60. Come on.
It's gotta happen. But then, as always, after Dynamite, we skip ahead to SmackDown. Friday Night SmackDown, we honestly could just kind of speed through this, except for one thing, because that one thing should have been on the PLE at the later in the day or later in the weekend, but
Yes.
It's fine. First thing I want to talk about, Chelsea Green stinks. Why? Put her in a dumpster. Like, she smells like trash. Just go put her in the dumpster. Be gone with you.
Speaking of taking a literal garbage story and just squeezing the gold out of it. At this point, you could give Chelsea Green the most half-assed, terrible story, and she's gonna make gold out of it, dude. She is so good. So good.
Oh, phenomenal. Phenomenal at what she does. And I got terrified with the dumpster bump. Because the way that table was positioned and how far out she was going definitely looked like a head about to rack on the side of a dumpster. But she saved it. It was fine. Second thing I want to talk about, AJ Styles returning and AJ Styles going back on injury. That sucks, bud.
Don't work yourself into a shoot, Hoot.
Yeah, per sources, once again, we don't report on dirt sheets, but they say he's not injured. So if he's working an injury angle, cool. I sometimes want to know if there's a shoot injury versus a work injury or not. Like, if a guy starts walking around in a boot like Fatu did back in a couple of months ago, I'm okay with that. It's a work injury, everything's fine. But the way he took that crossbody from Carmelo was rough.
But like, he took that crossbody, but then he was selling like a leg. So
because Carmelo landed his full weight on his leg.
Okay.
Like, you need to go back and watch that crossbody a couple more times because he goes to hit like the moonsault DDT that he does, and AJ misses, doesn't spin around in time off of the bump to catch Carmelo properly, and it just lands full leg.
Okay, because what I saw was AJ trying to set up, I think it was the forearm, and he lands on his foot, and that's when he kind of crouches down, grabs it.
No, that's later in the thing, because I think he goes to hit and he lands on his foot, rolls and starts holding, and then that's when they threw up the X and called off the match.
Which we got to come up with another signal now because everybody knows about the X.
Oh my gosh!
Also,
That and it's a work now. Why did we turn the X into a work?
look, there's certain things in wrestling that, like, I think if you watch with any sort of like analytical eye, you'll see certain things, and I'm glad they're there. There are certain ways that wrestlers can, without being painfully obvious, let officials know, like, hey, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Big moment happens, like, take your time, sell. You don't have to turn and go, hey, I'm good. Like, there's kind of hidden ways, and I'm okay with that because, like, safety in this thing is paramount. But when we take the things that, like, people have known and caught on to and turn them into storyline, like, you're kind of you're grabbing that curtain and pulling it back when it doesn't need to be. Because now all of a sudden the ref's throwing the, like, hey, this is a serious injury signal. Well, now we're going, like, okay, so when the two guys, like, go off the top of Hell in a Cell, is that not a serious injury moment that we need to throw the X for? Or when these guys go through a stage, or when a guy takes a bad brain buster or whatever, like, you take a little bit of that belief away by being like, well, no, this time it's really real. Like,
that's the situation with the X though. The X only gets thrown up when the guy is unresponsive or cannot continue. If there's ever a referee stoppage and there's no X, that's a work. If the guy jumps off Hell in a Cell through a table, prime example, Shane and Taker, the match was stopped. Like, they called off the match, and I don't believe there was ever an X thrown at that. I think they just brought the stretcher out because that was the finish of the match. But the moment you start going, hey, let's turn this X into a work, now, and I'm just taking my own life as an example, now my wife sees that on television and goes, oh, the X can be a work. And then I get thrown up an X because I got dropped on my neck in a high school gym, and now my wife doesn't worry. Or now I don't know an X is being thrown as a work, or vice versa. She sees the X and she starts freaking out, even though I'm fine.
Well, and I mean, like, that's prime example of this was, you had a match where you took a pretty rough shot to the back of the head, and we were, like, obviously concerned for your well-being, but, like, at no point did a ref throw the X, and I think that was the thing that kept me, like, as just a fan and as your friend, from, like, really taking that, like, it completely ruining everything else that happens after, right? Because, like, I'm thinking, like, oh my god, like, we're gonna be sitting in a freaking hospital in Houma, Louisiana at 2 a.m.
Wouldn't allow it.
But, like, it's just one of those things. Like, so if a ref throws the X at that point, like, I'm not paying attention to shit that happens after that. I am like, oh my god, is he okay?
Yeah.
So I think, like, that's one of those times where there's certain things that need to remain sacred in wrestling, and I think throwing the X should be one.
Absolutely.
I think we should also probably come up with another signal at this point because everybody knows the X, but still.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna start doing this. The bird flying away. That's what we're gonna do. But the big thing that I wanted to talk about off Friday Night SmackDown, we had a trio. I don't even know how to word this. We had a tag team ladder match with 3 tag teams. I don't know exactly. Sure, I don't know. Dance? I believe there was, like, a trio tag in the matchmaking, but I don't know. We had Street Profits DIY Bloodline in a ladder match that I heard was pretty decent. I'm sorry to the people listening to this podcast, and quite frankly, if you are listening this far, thanks, because a lot of people don't. I've heard it was a great match. Bloodline took it, but that is a big match that should have happened on the PLE.
Yeah, I mean, there was... I think we might have talked about it off air. This is one of those, like, you had a couple of these matches that were fine matches. Like, I don't think this pay-per-view is bad at all, but, like, you could have swapped. If you're going to take a championship match, take one off to put the other on. Like, maybe take Bayley and Nia if you're not doing the cash-in, which, we'll talk about later. Maybe you flip-flop those two. Because, dude, I mean, think about it. A pay-per-view with a Hell in a Cell, a ladder match, and then that big tag match at the end, and the Shark Cage, like, that feels like a bad blood pay-per-view. Um, so like there's definitely some matches you could have flip flopped. Like Sammy Gunther being on Bad Blood would have made all the sense in the world because that is a blood feud at this point. There's been title changes in this feud. There has been like career changing, shifts because of this feud. And look, I love when AEW has big matches on TV. I think it's a good thing. But when you take a slightly smaller match and put it on the pay-per-view instead of the big match on TV, like I feel like you could swap those.
Very much so. Yeah, that's a whole discussion that we can have.
Danielson is not taking away from what's going to happen in a week and a half.
Right. Yeah, that is a whole discussion that we can have, talking about the need for big title matches on AEW or WWE. I feel like, to go on a short little rant, I feel like it's a little different for AEW because they don't have monthly pay-per-views, even though they are starting to get to the point where they're close. So they need the big title matches that happen on that. And a topic that we have for a future Hot Take Hangout are the amount of titles in professional wrestling nowadays. We'll talk about it when we get to it. Stay tuned. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel if you've listened so far and you can hear my words. And so after SmackDown, we have Rampage.
So Saturday we've got...
And then Saturday we have Collision. Nothing against Rampage, good matches, just nothing of note, so we kind of skip over it most of the time.
I've heard rumblings. People are petitioning to let's stop doing Rampage and bring AEW Dark back.
That'd be nice.
I'm on board.
Yeah,
Tony, book it. Bring back Dark. Bringing in the indie talents, giving guys moments. I mean, a good friend of ours was on an episode, and it's cool to go back and watch or 2 episodes. It's cool to go back and watch, like, oh yeah, this is like, these are guys that we know. These are guys that like you've worked with, getting in the ring with name talents and getting those moments.
And
bring that back.
Pretty much a good time every time it happens.
Bring that show back.
Absolutely.
Anyway, Collision.
Absolutely. Collision. There was a fun main event between the conglomeration, O'Reilly and Orange Cassidy versus... See, now that I'm talking about it, I don't have it in my notes.
Yeah, just look down.
Brian Keith and Big Bill.
Large
because they're doing the Chris Jericho, Mark Briscoe thing, building it up, which is happening at WrestleDream.
I believe so, and that's
a Ring of Honor title at WrestleDream. I mean, I'm not surprised at this point.
That's gonna be a fun.
It'll be a good one. It'll be a good one. But the point that I want to make, and this goes into what we're going to talk about for the takeaways for the week. My takeaway is going back to watch a match. The Outrunners and Grizzled Young Veterans. Grit your teeth for the meat spin!
Oh,
brother, that's gotta be a fun match. So I'm definitely gonna go back and watch it. Probably right after we're done recording here.
Yep, that's it's one that like I didn't get to watch last night as we're recording on a Sunday. I'm gonna make time this week to go watch because I love both of these tag teams. The Outrunners is so freaking fun, man. Like this is one of those things the tag division needed. And those dudes are over. Give them the titles. Give them the world. Like,
give them the Ring of Honor tag titles.
You look at like when Danhausen came in, he was white hot, and like they did stuff with him, and then like he just kind of, unfortunately, he got bit with the injury bug like at the wrong time, and just kind of flowed to the point like he's killing the indies right now, and I love it. But pro wrestling, every time you step in a ring, you risk an injury that could put you out a week, a year. However, sometimes you take the thing that's white hot and you just push it to the freaking moon, and this is the time. Like, give these guys the world, man.
Yes, sir. Well, while Collision's happening, we had WWE's Bad Blood. Now, before we get into it, we've been teasing it the whole time. Me and Mr. Never Ready had a few libations in the kitchen before filming the video that you will see here shortly.
Yeet.
A few things that we did not talk about. 1, Raquel Rodriguez is back.
Which,
2,
happy for her, but yeesh. That reaction.
Yeah, it wasn't big. 2, Jimmy Uso is back. We the ones. 3, and something that we will be discussing next week when we have more on the story, we had another heel turn. And I'll only let you guess who that could be.
The smile on my face should say it all, but we'll talk about this next week.
We will be talking about it next week.
Got a little more air in this story.
Yes. But we definitely wanted to recap the pay-per-view in the moment. And we definitely did that. Once again, I apologize for the libations that happened in the moment. But we were thinking of possibly doing a long form. And after the giggles set in between myself, Mr. Dylan, and a special guest that you will see here shortly, that quickly turned from a 15-minute video into a 5-minute video. So we're just going to slap it on at the end of this podcast episode, and maybe in the future we will be putting out full pay-per-view recaps. Maybe we just do it after every match. We have Wrestle Dream coming up this Saturday, and maybe just after every match we do a quick little recap and a predictions update. So that way people can see how progressively crap-faced we got over it. Because, you know what?
Fun.
Is it episode 25 yet?
Cool. You know what?
You know what? I'm cashing in my one. Brothers, we were fucked!
Oh, he finally did it, folks.
It was bad. So, needless to say, I closed out and I opened and closed out the video as if we were just going to do a normal video. So this video will be closing. Therefore, I am the storyteller, Alex Braddock. You can find me on Alex Braddock or the Alex Braddock on social medias. Dylan, where can they find you, my friend?
Man, you could find me on the Victory Roll and running a camera for Pro Wrestling 225 Unleashed on YouTube. The best weekly episodic professional wrestling television show in this area. With
some commentators on a podcast that we don't really care for. We come for you.
I like them. I just want them to get off
their ass. They're great guys, but it's,
get off your ass.
Just 4 more episodes. 4 more.
Here.
But anyway, we are closing out with this lovely, fun predictions video or predictions recap, pay-per-view recap video. I apologize ahead of time, and thank you for watching.
0-2 with the English language this week.
Thank you, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, whatever time of day you are watching. This is the Victory Wrestling Podcast, where we're going to do a quick little pay-per-view recap. Joining me today, as always, is Dylan Gilbert. I am the one and only, the storyteller, Alex Braddock, and joining us as a special guest...
Say his name and he appears. We believe in Dale Springs.
He's back from the orphanage teaching the kids. Anyway, so what we have tonight is we're just going to recap everything that happened, do a small little review. I can do the thing too, guys. What we're going to do is we're just going to do a quick little recap, talk mine in Dylan's predictions and Dale's as well, I guess. We'll see what happens. And I may even put a little scoreboard down on the bottom. But first off, we had none other than the Hell in a Cell match, Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk, where Dylan, you suck! Dylan's 0-1 already, starting off the bat. Good old Mark over here.
You see this shirt? That's who I picked. Want to know, baby.
Correct. Hey. And as always, if you saw the prediction video from yesterday, you will see that I chose CM Punk. So far, we are 0-1-1. We'll see how well that takes us. Going into the next match, Nia Jax versus Bayley. Didn't choose. It was a Nia win. I did not take that one.
I'm checking my clock, and apparently it is not Tiffy time, but it will be. Just wait.
That is my
It's
queen.
coming soon.
She won. As well deserved. 2-0.
You'll see my annoyance here soon. So far we have 0, 1, and I guess 2. Next up, we have Damian Priest versus Finn Balor. Once again, I love you. You're great and all. He chose Balor?
Stupid.
Did you choose Balor?
I sure did choose Balor.
Yeah, you chose Finn Balor. That happens.
How does the entire Judgment Day get involved and Priest still win?
It's the Attitude
Come on,
Part
man.
5, baby.
Come on.
3-0.
I chose Damian Priest. He chose Damian Priest. And so far we are 0, 3, 2, and 3.
What?
Let's
What?
be real. He
Numbers.
doesn't count.
I do count. Next pay-per-view, I'm here.
Formal call out.
You heard it here first, I guess. Next up, we have the women's heavyweight championship match. I don't know what they
The
call
women's
it.
championship?
Yes, the women's
Yeah, I don't know.
championship.
I
They're
don't
not
know.
heavyweight.
Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley,
Yeah.
and we have going O again. Choosing Rhea Ripley, that fell through. And what was an okay match? I chose Liv because I claimed Damian was going to win earlier in the night. So now I'm 0-3 and
4-0, baby. Live is my life.
old boy is 4-0. You can kind of tell that somebody didn't actually make predictions.
Yes, I did.
And then next up we have the tag match, which we're going to call a draw. We're going to call a draw. We're not going to crown any points for it.
That's a 1.
I guess it's a 1. So
Hey,
if that's a
look.
1, then this is a 4.
We the ones, baby.
I'm the 5, baby.
All
you need
I
is
don't know
5.
what's going on. Anyway, long story short, Cody Rhodes and Roman
L.
won. Fatu and Springs, not Springs. Dear Lord.
You got involved, buddy?
Welcome to the blooper reel. Fatu and Solo
English.
lost because Roman and Cody wins. And then, buddy, what else happened?
We had the most confusing return of the night. 1, 2, 3, whatever that means. The Rock has come back to the WWE. I think
Come
he's
back
got
to
a movie.
Atlanta, of all places.
He's got a movie deal somewhere. He's got to promote.
Or
The
you
road
just-
to WrestleMania, the road to Saudi Arabia. We are
The
there.
Road to Survivor Series.
So needless to say, 1, 4, and 5.
5-0, baby.
Technically, he's 6-0 because he also predicted that The Rock was
I
coming
did.
back that
I just
night.
didn't tell
So 6.
Secret pick.
But this has been the bad blood. See, I can do it. It's almost happened again.
I'm taking my 1 point here because I predicted Alex Braddock versus the English language did not go in his favor. And I got that one. So the 0 is wiped from the board, folks.
Whether it's been a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, or good night, this has been
However you
some
spell English.
kind of havoc from the Victor Roll Wrestling Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to tune in on Monday for the actual episode. Thanks for tuning in, I guess.
Speak your English.